Hi everyone, welcome back to MEG Motors. Today we're going to be taking a look at this, I don't know if you call it an antique, it's certainly a vintage chainsaw. I bought this as part of a group of 7 pieces. I bought 7 pieces for $80 from the same guy, and there were 6 chainsaws and 1 blower, and this is one of the chainsaws. This is actually a Mongomery Wards chainsaw. It's a 10-inch chainsaw. I don't really know how old it is or really what's wrong with it, other than it doesn't run, of course. But yeah, I'm kind of excited about working on this one. It's a little bit different. And what I know about it is that the pull starter doesn't work most of the time. Every once in a while it'll catch, and when it does, the engine feels okay. But we need to get the starter fixed if we can, and then once we get the starter fixed, we'll move on to seeing if we can make it run. But let's pull the starter off of it first and see if we can figure out what's going on with this one. All right, so to get the starter off, it looks like we have 3 Phillips screws. So we're gonna take those loose and pull this starter off and see if we can see what's going on in there. I have a feeling it'd be near impossible to get parts for this, so if there's anything broken, it's gonna kind of probably be the end of this thing, but we'll see. Maybe it's something we can just oil up or lube up or do something and make it work again. So yeah. So here's our starter. Now, I've always said that the first thing that you need to do in order to fix something is figure out how it's supposed to work. And I've never seen a starter quite like this one, so I'm not sure exactly how this is supposed to work. Although yeah, I'm not sure. It looks to me like somehow, so we have this hub in here that's got some grooves around it, and it's pretty well worn. And so I'm thinking that these pieces here should extend outward somehow to engage this drive hub. And they may not be doing that the way that they're supposed to. Though I'm not sure exactly how that's supposed to work yet. So I think we're going to need to take this apart and see if we can see what's going on in there. Let me get a flat tip screwdriver and we'll take this apart and see what we can see in there. All right, so I'm going to take this center screw out. And it feels like we have a spring underneath there too. Yes, we do. So we have a spring and a couple of washers. This one looks almost like a fiber washer. A spring and a couple washers. Oh. Have another washer on top. Looks like another fiber washer and another metal washer. And so like I said, I'm not sure exactly how this is supposed to work. Oh, this piece has some offset pieces on it. Oh, maybe these, I was thinking these were the pieces that were supposed to engage the hub, but maybe it's not those pieces. Maybe these are the ones that go off center. somehow and engage that hub. Yeah, I think I see what's supposed to happen. I think what's supposed to happen is that this piece should be under tension, so when this starts to turn, I wonder if that's in upside down. I wonder if that makes a difference. Yeah, so if this piece can't turn when you pull the handle, it'll drive those pieces off center and cause these pieces to flex outward towards the starter, that starter hub. Just not sure how far out they're supposed to go. I mean, they could go that far if everything was working smoothly, I suppose. Oh no, this can only go this far. So I'm seeing some indications that these pieces may be worn down. You can see some wear on the edges. And so I'm wondering if we could flip these over. Let me see if these will flip. Yeah, that one flipped. And that one flipped. So if I flip those over, oh, I put that on the wrong way. Yeah, let's try that. I'm gonna clean these pieces up a little bit. They have some old grease and stuff on them. I'm gonna clean these up a little bit and then we'll put this back together and we'll see if we've done any good. All right, so let's put this back together now. And so I'm gonna put the spring in. So the way that I believe this is supposed to work is these two fiber washers. I'm not gonna grease anything because I believe that these fiber washers are supposed to provide an element of friction so that this piece does not want to turn. And so we don't want to grease that up and make it turn easy. That would defeat the purpose. So I'm going to put these pieces in. We have the two fiber washers there, and then the metal washers, and the screw kind of forces all of that stack together, which makes it difficult for that piece to turn, which is what we want, I believe. Yeah. So now as we pull the handle, we can see that this piece does not want to rotate until it's forced to. And these pieces here extend outward as we pull the handle. So yeah, let's put this back on and see if that fixed it. Well, it feels better than it did. Unfortunately, the inside of this is worn really badly as well. And that's the whole flywheel, and so the chances of us finding another flywheel are probably pretty slim. So we'll see how well this works. Hopefully well enough for us to do some work and maybe fix this thing. Yeah, unfortunately, feels almost like it's worse now than it was. Let's take that back off. Looks like this washer may be off center. Yeah. I'm not sure I have that center hub tightened all the way. I'm having a hard time getting it to go down far enough to keep this washer aligned. It feels a little better. It didn't feel like there was enough friction on this piece, but it feels better now. Let's stick it on and see what happens. See if it feels any better. Feels good there. All right, that feels better. All right, we're gonna pull the air filter cover off. There's no air filter on it, of course. I'm sure that's long gone. And we're gonna do a start on spray test. So just like all the equipment we work on, we need 3 things to make this run. We need 3 things to make this run. We need compression, which it feels like we have plenty of. We need spark, and we need fuel. And so we're gonna spray a little carburetor cleaner in here, and then we're gonna pull it through a couple of times and see if we can get some kind of a pop off or an attempted start. I'm gonna reset the camera for that, and let's see what happens. All right, so here we go. Let's gonna hold the throttle wide open. And we're going to shoot a little shot in there. And then I'm going to take it pretty easy on the starter for now. I'll lock the throttle wide open. It has a trigger lock on it. Well, it just did something. It didn't sound so good. Now the starter's not engaging again. All right, let's pull the starter off and see what happened in there. It felt kind of like the flywheel might have come loose. All right, so it looks like this starter mechanism has shifted out of place. I'm not sure why it did that. And we're gonna have to take that back apart. So I'm wondering if when I flipped that over, I made some sort of a mistake. It looks like it should work either way, but maybe not. Oh yeah, I can't go that way. That has to go this way. So I should not have flipped that over. Give me just a second. I want to check something. All right, so what I was checking was to see if one of these was maybe longer than the other. And they seem to be pretty closely matched, but this one looks to be just a little bit longer than that one. And this one looks to be a little bit longer than that one. And so I flipped these around again. I already flipped them once. Now I flipped them right back to the way that they were when we started, because I believe this is the longer side and has the better chance of engaging the flywheel, which kind of means we're right back to the way we were before we did anything. So I'm not sure that I've fixed anything, but we're going to put this back together again and kind of see what kind of shape we're in. And so the problem before was it takes this big long piece right here to stop this from slipping past the plastic. And when I had this flipped over, it was just this small bump right here, and that wasn't enough to stop it. And so the metal internal piece went too far. So we gotta flip this back over, put this all back together, and then see what kind of shape we're going to be in. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure we've done anything, so I don't know how we could have possibly fixed it, but let's just see how it does. All right, let's try another start on spray test, see if we can make a start. All right, let's see if we can get the carburetor off of this. I've got 2 screws right here. That's our air filter housing. Here's our choke. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how you get that off. Gonna have to be careful, I don't want to break it. All right, got 1 fuel line. Let's see if we can get that to come off. The fuel line actually feels pretty good for being as old as it is. It's painted yellow, so I'm thinking it's maybe the original. All right. It looks like the carburetor is stuck under this rod for the oil pump. So we're going to try to take that oil pump loose. I got 2 screws here. And it looks like maybe this back housing has to come off. No, that doesn't come off. Maybe. I'm not quite sure how it comes apart is the problem. Oh, wait a minute, look at there. Carburetor came out all on its own. All right, well, there's our carburetor. This is a Tillotson carburetor. Interesting. Let's get set up a little bit and let's take this thing apart and see if we can see what's going on inside. Alright, so we're going to work on taking this carburetor apart, but we got to be careful. I'm not sure that we'll be able to get parts for this carburetor if we tear something. I've never even heard of this brand, Tillotson. Alright, so here's our diaphragm, and honestly it doesn't feel that bad, but it doesn't feel that good either. This looks like it might be the same size as some of the spares that I have. I'm going to see if I have one that might work in place of this one. Alright, and then we have a standard needle. And it looks like we have a jet right there. So I'm going to take the needle out. There's no fuel in the metering chamber. So it apparently wasn't pumping any fuel. We cranked it enough times, it should have had some fuel in there. Doesn't look that bad in here. Let's go ahead and take the fuel pump side apart. There was fuel on that side. That's a good sign. So from the cranking that we did, apparently we cranked enough to pump fuel up to the fuel pump. And so just like all the carburetors we work on, these diaphragm carburetors, this is the fuel pump, and it needs to be soft and flexible, and it feels good. And we need these two pieces right here to also be soft and flexible, and they feel really good. So I think the fuel pump part is okay probably, and it was pumping fuel. just never made it over here to the metering chamber side. So I suspect that this diaphragm was not moving like it should have. Let me check my spares and see if I've got something that'll work on this one. And if I do, we'll see if we can get it back together. All right, so we're in luck. I had a diaphragm. It had a couple extra tabs on it, and I cut them off with a pair of scissors, but it looks identical now, and it fits the carburetor perfectly. So yeah, I think we're going to be good here. I'm going to clean this needle. Spray just a little carb cleaner in the corner there. And spin it in there a few times, see what comes off. Got a little bit of dirt off of it, not too much. All right, so let's work on putting this back together. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I want to take this high-speed needle, or this, actually that's a low-speed needle. I'm going to take that needle out. I'm going to count how many turns it's out now. So it's out 1/2, about 1.5 turns. I'm going to take it all the way out. I'm going to spray some carb cleaner in there so I can see there's a passage right here in the carburetor that goes to the needle. And then from the needle, it must go into the venturi somewhere. There's a very small hole right there in the venturi. So we should see carb cleaner come out of there as well. And we do. So that's all open and looking good. So we're going to put this back in and turn it back out 1.5 turns. 1.5. All right. And then let's put this back together. We're going to put our needle in. We're going to put our spring on. And we're going to put our lever on and work it up under the needle. And then we're going to put our retainer screw in. So I'm going to check the lever height. I don't really know what it's supposed to be, but typically there's only 2 different heights, at least on all the modern ones. There's this straight edge height, and then there's this height, and typically this height is used when the metering diaphragm has a large button on it. Now this one isn't even close. I'm not sure if I should bend it or not. I'm thinking I should. It's a long way for that diaphragm to have to go to lift that needle, or to press that needle. I'm going to bend that up just a little bit. Let's see what happens. It's still not quite touching, but closer. I'm going to go up just a touch more. All right, that's really close. So we're going to try that and see. I don't really know if that was a mistake or not. We'll see though, I guess. It'll either work or it won't, right? All right, so we're going to put our new diaphragm on there. Our cover back on. and put our screws back in. All right, and then we're going to put our fuel pump back together. All right, let's put it back on and see what happens. All right, so we have another interesting problem on this chainsaw. This little intake manifold, let's call it, sits right there, and the carburetor sits on top of that. But unfortunately, there's no gasket here, and there should be a gasket that seals this intake manifold to the cylinder. I checked with a caliper, and if I check the distance from the flat surface of the housing to the surface of the cylinder, it's significantly more than this distance on the intake manifold. And so when I tighten this down, there's going to be a large gap all the way around this, and this engine is not going to run that way. That would be a massive vacuum leak, and it would never run that way. And so I'm going to have to try to make a gasket, I think. This is going to be our only bet here. And I'm not really set up to do that. But I'm sure that it would be near impossible to find the right gasket, so we're going to have to make something. Yeah, so give me a minute, let me work on that and see what I can come up with, and then we'll see if we can do something with this. We really need a gasket on this side too. This carburetor is going to sit on here like this, and with no gasket there, there's going to be vacuum leaks there too, so we really need two gaskets. So let me see what I can do. So I tried a little experiment, and it looks like it worked. I sprayed some paint on the back side of this intake manifold, this gasket surface, and then I pressed it down onto some gasket material that I have, and it left a pretty nice outline. So I think I'm going to be able to cut that out and make it work. It's important, like the inside cutout is important and the holes are important, but the outside is not really that critical. As long as it covers the surface, that's good enough. So yeah, I'm gonna use an X-Acto knife and a straight edge and see if I can cut this out a little bit and see if I can make a gasket. So I'll show you what I have when I come back. All right, so here's our first gasket. It's a little bit crude, but I think it's probably going to be good enough. So I'll show you how I made that, just so you can see when I make this other side. Like I said, I just used some spray paint. Put it on the manifold and then flipped it over and used it like a stamp on the gasket paper. And that one didn't come out quite as well, but it gives me a rough idea of where I need to cut the material. And so I think we can work with that. I do have a set of hole punches. And so these are a special kind of punch that actually punch a hole, as you might imagine. And so that's what I use to punch the holes in this. And so we're going to use that again on this one to punch the holes in the gasket material. Unfortunately, the biggest one that I have isn't big enough to cut the main hole in the middle, so we're going to have to cut that by hand. Yeah, I wish I had a better way to do this, but I don't, unfortunately. So So we're just going to have to kind of freehand this and see how good a job we can do. And for the bolt holes, this is where the hollow punch comes in. You can put that there and just punch a hole in it like that. Yeah, that's lining up pretty good. And then this little slot right here is important. And so when the engine runs, this passage right here is routed down to the crankcase, and it'll have alternating positive and negative pressure. And that positive and negative pressure is passed up into the carburetor, and that's what pulses the fuel pump diaphragm back and forth. So it's important that that passage be open. And so we have to make sure when we make this gasket that we get that passage and it's in the right place. And so I'm going to use a straight edge that I have here. All right. Let's see, so that should go, oh, it's got to go here. So yeah, I think that'll work. I'm gonna just use some scissors and cut the outside, and then we'll come back and we'll see if we can put this carburetor on. All right, so here we are with our two gaskets. They look pretty good, I think. And so we're going to try to put this back together. So we're going to start with this gasket in here and put the intake manifold on top. Then this gasket goes right here. Now, all we have to do is try to get the carburetor back in place and get all of those gaskets lined up, the throttle linkage connected, and the fuel line on. So let's see how we do with that. All right, there's the start. Let's see if we can get that throttle linkage. Looks like the only thing that holds the throttle linkage in place is the carburetor being in position. It just, once it's in position, the throttle linkage can't come out. And so you got to kind of put all of that back together at the same time. And then get the gaskets back in place. Get the fuel line on. A little bit of a juggling act to get everything all back together at the same time. All right, so let's see now. If we slide this down in here. All right. I think that looks good. I think we're back together there. We are going to put this side of the throttle back together. Just like that, and like that. And we'll put our screws back in. All right, with all that done, I think that we are ready to try to start this. I'm gonna put some fuel in the tank, and we're gonna try it a few times, see if it'll crank up. So let me reset the camera, we'll see what happens. All right, so let's see what we can do to get this thing to run. Because I don't know, I put fuel in the tank, but because I don't know how long it's gonna take for the fuel pump to get fuel up to the carburetor, and because I don't want to run it too much on spray. The problem with running on spray is there's no oil in spray. And we don't know how long it's been since this is run. And since I may have to prime it several times to get the carburetor full of fuel, I don't want to run it all that time on spray. So I've got some premix here in a can, and I've got a little piece of hose. And so I'll just put my finger over the end of the hose and dribble some gas into the carburetor. That's another way to prime if you don't have a carburetor cleaner, for instance. And it does have oil in it, which is a plus, right? All right, and so our switch is on. We're going to set our throttle. And yeah, let's see what happens. There's a little bit of a start. All right, well, we got a little bit of a start out of it. I'm going to open this needle a little bit, and then we're going to prime it again. Saw plenty of smoke coming out of it, which is a good sign. That means we got some oil in there. And so I think we're going to be okay. All right, here we go. Let's see if it'll start again. I'm going to set the throttle. Baby. There we go. Burnt my table right away. We're idling really, really rich. I'm going to screw that in a little bit. Let's see if we can get it to fire up again without a prime. that's sounding better. I'm going to turn the idle speed up just a little bit. Here we go again. Well, how about that? I mean, actually it sounds pretty good. Yeah, it started easy after we got it adjusted. That second time after we shut it off, started on first crank. It actually feels fairly powerful. The engine sounds good. The chain is spinning, which is good. I don't have any chain oil in it yet, so I don't know if the chain is going to oil. But we need to check that for sure. Chainsaws that don't oil the chain aren't much good, so we're going to have to check that. And I have to come up with some sort of an air filter for it. And then, yeah, and then we'll be in good shape. So let me put some chain oil in it, and we'll run it a little bit, and we'll see how it's doing, and see what we got to do after that. Let's cross our fingers, hope the chain oils. All right, so I noticed something when I was putting oil in this one. The chain is on backwards. The chain should, this is the cutting part of the chain, and the chain goes this way. So this chain is actually on backwards. So we need to take it off anyway. So I'm going to take this loose down here. I also remembered that this old saw has a manual chain oiling system. So unlike the modern chains or chainsaws that oil the chain automatically when you run them, this one you have to manually pump the oil up to the bar. So we're going to pull this bar off, and we're going to pump the oiler a little bit and see if we can see some oil coming in up to the chain, and then we'll put the chain on right. So I've already put some oil in there. There was an interesting decal under the cover here that talks about the mixture. So it wants a 16:1 mixture, and it wants SAE 20 motor oil for the chain. I didn't have 20 weight. I put some 10W40 in there. I think that'll be fine. And I'm running a lot less oil than that. I'm running 40:1 right now. So I may have to mix up some special oil for this just to make sure that it stays safe. But I think we're going to be okay for right now. But I will mix up some 16:1 here in just a minute. All right, and so we're going to pump our. This is our chain oiling lever. Oh, look at there. That didn't take long at all. So you just saw, hopefully you just saw right there, when I pump the lever, oil comes out right there, which is exactly where it needs to come out. So yeah, this is looking really, really good, actually. Our chain. Our chain feels really sharp, probably because it hasn't been used. It was running backwards. So I'm not going to mess with sharpening this chain just yet. I'm going to put the bar back on. Then I'm going to put the chain over the clutch, back on the bar. And then this piece was on right here, just a guide plate. And then we'll put our cover back on. And so for those of you that are wondering, yes, I will spend some time cleaning this saw up now that it runs. I didn't want to spend all that time cleaning it up until I knew for sure that it was going to run, but actually seems to be running quite well. I'm going to start it up one more time, and we're going to pump the primer a few times and just make sure that we can get oil out to the chain, and then we'll see where we go from there. Alright, so here we go. Switch is on. Let's see if it starts without any choke or anything. Oh yeah. So hopefully you can see on that chain, now we have some oil on it, which is a good sign. So yeah, with that, I think we can call this one fixed. Yeah, cool as that is, I really like this little saw. It's cute, right? A 10-inch chainsaw. I've never had a 10-inch chainsaw. I think the smallest I ever worked on was a 14. Yeah, a little 10-inch chainsaw from Mongomery Wards. No telling how old it is, but man, it runs good. Sounds good. I'm going to work on cleaning it up a little bit. I'm going to try to do something to put an air filter on it, and yeah, I get some of the right mixture of oil in there. Get some 16-to-1 in there. It smokes already pretty heavy at 40-to-1, so 16-to-1 is going to be pretty smoky, but I'll put some 16-to-1 in there, and I'll take it out and cut some wood and see how it does, and then we'll put this up for sale, see if we can find somebody who wants to buy an antique chainsaw. So this is one down, one of 8, right? I bought, oh, one of 7. I bought 7 pieces for $80. This is the first one. Didn't really cost us very much to fix this one. I put a diaphragm in the carburetor, but I buy those in bulk, so they cost me less than $1 a piece. And a little bit of gasket material is all we put into this one. So I figure we have about $12 in each piece. You buy 7 pieces for $80, it's $12, $11 or $12. And so we spent hardly anything on this one to get it running. And now it's a working chainsaw, so we'll put this up for sale and see what we can get for it. I don't think we're going to get a ton for it, unless we can find a collector. There's a collector out there who might be willing to pay more for it, but for somebody who just wants a chainsaw, this is a $50 chainsaw at best, but we'll see. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Stay tuned. I got 6 more pieces to fix and sell, and to see if we made any money on this deal. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.